Hi Cellar Collective, and welcome back to your May Collective. And now we're going to go over your red wine. So the bottle in front of me you probably recognize. It is the very famous Ridge, but this is their Santa Cruz Mountains Cabernet, and this is the vintage 2023. And I'm excited to share this one because I've been a big fan of Ridge for many years. But I brought this bottle to the Cellar Collective for a reason. So let's talk through this. So first of all, for those who aren't familiar with Ridge, in 1959, there were 4 scientists from the Stanford Research Institute who decided to buy a property or some land high in Monte Bello Ridge just to kind of get away from Silicon Valley. But where they bought that property or where they bought the land were some Cabernet vines that were definitely needed some help. So one of them, Dave, decided that he wanted to make some wine just for fun from those vines, and the half barrel that he made was so good that the 4 of them decided to come back together and redo the whole winery and the vines, and that's really how Ridge started. And in 1969, they brought on Paul Draper, who is one of the most famous, one of the best winemakers in all of the U.S. history, who had studied previously in northern France and northern Italy for old viticulture practices. And Ridge refers to the way that they wine make, because of Paul, pre-industrial winemaking or pre-industrial viticulture, rather than calling them natural wine, that kind of thing. So you know that what we're talking about is we're talking about terroir-focused, viticulture-focused wine. So Paul kind of spearheaded this movement with Ridge for over 50 years, and this is what we have in our glass today. So Ridge, we'll talk a little bit about the Judgment of Paris because I know I mentioned it in the white wine, but it's actually more important in this wine. So the Judgment of Paris was a British wine merchant in Paris, Stephen Spurrier, decided that he wanted to celebrate the U.S.'s bicentennial. And he wanted to put the top producers in California against the big chateau of Bordeaux and Burgundy. He brought French press, he brought French wine critics, and it was all blind tasting. Well, the Ridge Monte Bello, 1971 was submitted, and it took I think it was 5th overall in the original tasting, which is really good because it was ahead of some of the other Bordeaux chateaux. But 30 years later, Stephen brought it back and he did a whole tasting again with the same exact wines, the same exact vintages, because the French press said, oh, well, California wine, like it's nice, when you drink it right away, but it'll never age like our Bordeaux's 30 years on. Well, 30 years later, the 1971 Monte Bello won first place, and by a landslide, like 18 points against anything else that was given. So I think it started a great reputation for Ridge, a great reputation obviously for California, and so that's really what we have here today. So this is their Santa Cruz Mountains Cab. It's actually a blend of 85% Cab, 15% Merlot, and 5% Petit Verdot. So it's kind of like a Bordeaux blend. And the Santa Cruz Mountain is the coolest Cabernet growing district. So you're talking about high elevation meets kind of cool maritime. And so this is a true mountain cab, and this is going to be very, very different than those big tannin, fruit forward, jammy sort of cabs. This is going to be more balanced, more restrained. You're going to feel some freshness in this. And what makes the Santa Cruz Mountains AVA really unique is they have limestone soils, which is really different than the cab growing in Napa and Sonoma. So also with this bottle is the 2023 vintage is a remake of the Santa Cruz Mountain wine. So from 1978 to the early 2000s, Ridge was making the Santa Cruz Mountain Cab. But then they switched it to the estate Cab because they wanted just to make sure everyone knew it was like all of their estate fruit and it was all on the same, the Monte Bello Ridge. But in 2023, they worked with some other farmers and some other plots in Santa Cruz Mountains. So they wanted to bring it back. So it's been changed a bit, brought it back. So this is actually the first vintage that we have again for the Santa Cruz Mountain Cab. So this is kind of a premiere with this vintage, which is really cool as well. So let's go ahead and try it. Okay, so yeah, right away, it is completely different than your normal Napa Cab on the nose. I have this beautiful, so you have these beautiful like blackberries, a little bit of tobacco, some black olive as well. It's very savory on the nose. And you can tell already that it doesn't feel jammy. It feels really kind of lifted and bright. Yeah, it's so nice. So you have beautiful tannin and beautiful structure in this wine. Beautiful, amazing fruit. But you can tell that there's a little touch of oak. It's not overly oaky. I believe that it's like 17 months in oak and maybe 30% of it is new oak. So it's just well integrated, beautiful fruit, beautiful structure, lifted. You can tell that the alcohol is lower than the normal. I don't know what it says on here. I know that they will say it because they're very transparent. 13.2% alcohol. That is unheard of for some cabs in California. You know what I thought was really cool about Ridge is they put their ingredients on the back label. They're super transparent when it's not even necessary. And I just love that about everything that they do. It's all clean fruit. They focus on the vineyard, the terroir. They really let that speak rather than some intense winemaking practices. Just beautiful, juicy fruit. Just a really, really nice cab. And one of those, and I thought was going to be really good for even the summer here. Because if you are a cab drinker, this 13.2%, this lifted, this balanced, this restrained cab is right where you need to be. I also pulled this out of the cellar temperature as well. So there's a very, very, very light chill on it. And I think it's perfect for this cab. And also the pairing that Riley chose is going to be so perfect for it. So I hope you enjoy this cab as much as I do, and cheers.